This is a Sector 39 project we did in late September 2016. The client was the Honeypot, which is a children's educational kind of refuge for kids from distressed backgrounds, I think we can say. It's a new site. There's a renovated building at the top, which is the residence for the kids. There's a barn which has been converted into offices and a play space, and you can see there's orchards and then there's 4 or 5 acres of rough pasture sloping southwards with an open aspect. The site's very windy, but is really sort of open and full of potential. It had just been permanent grazing. The client was very interested in developing the landscape to support nature, wildlife, and biodiversity, but also importantly to create experiential play opportunities, creative play, muddy play, opportunities for kids who were staying there. So this is a really important part of the design. The idea of the Sector 39 involvement was to use our sort of professional design team, a mixed group of students, including aeronautical engineers, architects, educators, public sector workers, who were working with us over 2 weeks to gain the skills and experience in working in these areas. And we spent a whole day at the site, surveying, measuring, and also in interviewing the clients and understanding exactly what they wanted the landscape to do for them, and what the potentials of working with it, etc. are. So yeah, really fantastic opportunity for us to get our teeth into something. Now the client was invited us to come and do this work. They didn't necessarily have budget in place for us to pay for this work. So what we've offered to do was to do the work for free, and in return use that for match funding for our wider project, which is we're calling Saving the Planet One School at a Time. And we identified that the Honeypot is essentially as one of the first schools that we can work with. And this was a great opportunity for us to show what's possible, if you like, to show potentially to other clients. So the area is also surrounded, shall we just say, by heavily grazed sort of sheep pasture and sort of mixed hedging and things like that. So not a massively biologically interesting landscape, but within the site itself, there's a huge opportunity to really enhance it and create a really interesting and exciting sort of experiential learning space, as I said. This picture looking out off the property where we can just see monoculture ryegrass and sheep, sort of standard Welsh farming sort of practices. We looked at access. We looked very much thought about how water might drain over the land, how excess water could be channeled into places where it could be used usefully and creatively. Sort of looking at the sort of developments and things that are going on there currently. Okay, so this permaculture design process starts with survey. We do a survey of the client, we do a survey of the land and the available resources, and then we take that all back to the classroom and we do analysis. We ask kind of questions: is what are the key functions that try to be achieved, and how could we group these functions together so that we create essentially systems, a more complex, more interactive, more interconnected responses to the design challenge. So you're seeing images here of us going through various options as part of the course. In fact, here we're looking at straw bale building and low impact building methods. The person presenting here actually was a student on a previous course from a few years ago, and he's then taken that experience and turned that into his own operations, and that's fed into the design process itself. So you can see here, this is our design brief. This is the students spent time interrogating the client, which is Honeypot, and we met all 3 of their staff members. And from that, they drew out the key kind of objectives of what they wanted to achieve. And we also looked around the kind of opportunities that might lie to make improvement. So permaculture, we do sector analysis. We want to look at the site, understand how water, wind, sun moves across the land, and identify things that we see as as contributing factors and things that perhaps might be more challenging. The group also took it in the direction of exploring the kind of feelings and emotions and more sort of interpersonal elements of the design, and identified this idea within the design about creating memories, creating because this place is about creating a space for children who don't really have stable homes to be able to come on regular visits. I don't know, 2-3 times a year, holidays, half terms, that kind of thing, and give them a happy childhood, if you like. Create some positive memories and some positive associations that perhaps they're not getting at home. So this is a complex thing to try and design. And this is very much what we're trying to kind of approach and tackle within our broader Saving the Planet project, is that we have to meet the needs of clients, i.e. give kids play areas and all that sort of stuff, but we want to also meet the needs of nature, biodiversity, and we want to understand how we can reduce carbon emissions and in fact create opportunities for carbon sequestration. So we've got this sort of big picture, how do we save the planet narrative going on, and then on another level we've got the actually meeting the needs of the client and so forth. So as we take you through the design, you can see how the students are linked together the various kind of design outcomes, the various aspirations of the project, and then broken that down into a series of actions and ideas and ways to communicate those in a way in which all the various different stakeholders of the project can actually usefully understand. So it starts with a base map. You're seeing a very simple representation of that. This is the which is, we start with the point, we start from what is actually there already. What is it that and what is it that we can't change? And then we start to try and understand the objectives of the group, and then from there we build on top of that our actual own sort of design inputs and ideas. And this is all about bringing the client with you, and also about constantly referring yourself back to the core objectives of the design to make sure that we're actually meeting the needs of of the client and the group and the users of the site. So we've gone to the effort to collate a lot of this information and capture the outputs from the designs, because this is the basis of what we want to begin to start making available to other, people we're engaging with on the project, by giving them some real case study examples. And this was our first one. It was a significant piece of work. We spent a whole day on a physical site survey. We then spent 2 days going through the actual design process and generating the artwork and stuff, and then a final day actually presenting it and communicating those ideas to the rest of the students and to the client. And what you're seeing here is the individual students each one talking through the component of the design that they've individually worked on, and just pulling out the key points to create a narrative for the client, to make it really, really clear. And this is the thing about how do you communicate more complex ideas in a way in which you can be inclusive of and bring your audience with you. So these are all of the things that are going on in these presentations, and what the students are doing is building up a whole narrative of the vision of where we're going, why we're doing it, and showing how to make best use of the natural assets of the landscape, and saying to meet the sort of the needs to benefit obviously both the client, the site users, neighbours, and all the other things we've considered, but also say these much longer term goals around enhancing and protecting biodiversity, evaluating natural resources, reducing outputs and waste, reducing emissions, and finding ways to sequestrate carbon and to drive the project itself into a more carbon negative direction. That's it, really. I think that's as far as we go. So thank you very much.